Ron Howard's life has long been a subject of admiration and inspiration, but few knew the weight he carried behind his public image. From a young age, Ron was thrust into the spotlight by his parents, Rance Howard and Jean Spiegel, both actors. Born on March 1, 1954, in Duncan, Oklahoma, Ron's childhood was anything but typical. At just 18 months, he appeared in his first film, Frontier Woman, marking the beginning of a career that would span decades. His formative years were spent memorizing lines, not playing with other children. By the time the family moved to California in the late 1950s, Ron's life revolved around the relentless grind of show business. His father, balancing military duties and auditions, and his mother's acting career, set the stage for a life that would forever blur the line between childhood and adult responsibilities. For Ron, this early immersion in the industry became a golden cage, safe but isolating. The price of fame, America's son. At the tender age of 6, Ron Howard became America's son when he was cast as Opie Taylor in The Andy Griffith Show. Though his portrayal of the sweet and innocent boy captured the hearts of millions, the reality of Ron's life was far different. Off camera, he lived a life of seclusion, completing his schooling in a small room near the set while hearing other children play outside. The pressure to embody the idealized image of American childhood was immense, and his father, Rance, worked hard to guide him through the challenges. Rance advised Ron to never act cute but always be authentic, a lesson that would shape his artistic identity. Yet the toll of being everyone's beloved child while remaining emotionally distant from his own life began to take its toll. Looking back, Ron admitted that the wounds from his early years, those that came from never truly being his own person, never fully healed. The pressure of Happy Days and the battle for identity. By the time Happy Days arrived in 1974, Ron was 19, yet again cast in a role that would define his adolescence. As Richie Cunningham, he became the epitome of the all-American, dependable teenager. While the world adored him, Ron began to feel stifled, trapped by the expectations that came with the role. As the 1970s progressed, the world outside Happy Days was changing rapidly, with the Vietnam War and youth culture shifting the cultural landscape. Ron, however, felt his character remained untouched by these real-world events. The frustration of being stuck in a static role while the world evolved around him drove him to write a memo to ABC, requesting a storyline that acknowledged the war. His request was denied, and the growing suffocation he felt in his career pushed him to pursue a new path, one that would allow him to break free from the confines of his on-screen identity. The Burden of Perfection, Apollo 13, and Burnout. As Ron's directing career soared, so did the demands placed on him. In 1995, he took on one of the most challenging projects of his career, Apollo 13. Determined to honor the astronauts who had risked their lives, Ron pushed himself to the limits of exhaustion. He worked 18-hour days, filming zero-gravity sequences aboard NASA's Vomit Comet, meticulously recreating mission control, ensuring that every detail was accurate. The effort, however, took a toll on his health. Ron collapsed on set due to severe dehydration and hypertension, a result of his relentless drive. Despite the setback, production resumed after a 36-hour break, with the crew showing their support by wearing shirts reading Mission Control. Behind the scenes, Ron realized the cost of his perfectionism. He had crossed a line, becoming so consumed by his work that he had risked his health and well-being. This realization haunted him for years, especially as it affected his relationships with the people closest to him. The price of success. A guilt-filled realization. For all of Ron Howard's accolades and achievements, the heaviest burden he carries is the regret from his personal life. In 1991, when his daughter Jocelyn was born, Ron made a decision he would later come to deeply regret. He chose to work on Far and Away in Ireland for 6 months, leaving his wife Cheryl to raise their children alone. When he returned, he was devastated to find that Jocelyn didn't recognize him, and Bryce barely reacted to his return. Cheryl, exhausted from raising their children alone, also struggled to connect with Ron after his absence. In 2025, Ron admitted that this moment shattered something inside him, forcing him to confront the truth that success and professional achievements meant little if they came at the cost of his family. Over the years, Ron vowed never to disappear like that again. But in 2005, during the reshoots for Cinderella Man, he once again found himself slipping into the same pattern. He missed milestones, missed memories, and returned home to find his children had grown while he was absent. This second lapse made Ron realize that he had been running from the pressure to always exceed expectations, a pressure he had been carrying since childhood. Reevaluating life and priorities. In 2025, after decades of working in Hollywood, Ron Howard began to reassess his life and priorities. On his 50th anniversary, he donated a bench to his high school in John Burroughs' memory, where he first met his wife Cheryl. In doing so, Ron publicly acknowledged the truth he had long kept inside. He would trade all his accolades, awards, and success if it meant getting back the time he lost with his children. As he reflected on his journey, he realized that the greatest achievements meant little if the people he loved were slipping away. This shift in perspective has led Ron to step back from long productions and turn down projects that require extended travel. Even his company, Imagine Entertainment, now runs more independently, allowing him to prioritize his family over professional obligations. His days are no longer dictated by studio deadlines, but by family meals, quiet conversations, and moments he refuses to lose again. Facing a fear he cannot control, Ron Howard's biggest challenge today is not the pressures of the Hollywood machine, but the fear of losing his brother Clint. Clint Howard, who had always been a constant in Ron's life, has been struggling with a serious health condition. The details of Clint's condition remain private, but Ron's voice betrays the worry and fear he feels. For Ron, Clint is not just a brother, but the one person who understood the complexities of their childhood and their shared experiences in the world of show business. As Clint faces his own battles, Ron is confronted with the helplessness of not being able to protect the person who had always been there for him. This chapter in Ron's life is far more difficult than any career setback, and for the first time in a long while, Ron admits to feeling afraid. He can't rewrite this script, and it's a fear he never anticipated. The truth finally revealed. In recent interviews, Ron Howard has opened up about the struggles he faced throughout his career and life. The man who spent a lifetime telling the world stories now admits that he never fully told his own. At 71, with a legacy of achievements, he is finally learning that the most important stories are those shared with the people he loves. For fans, the shock wasn't that Ron faced challenges, but that he carried them alone for so many years. Now, with his brother's health in jeopardy, Ron has come to a painful realization. No amount of fame or success can replace the time lost with those you love. The heartbreak is undeniable, but it is also a testament to the human being behind the Hollywood icon.